Good. We're live now.
Okay, sweet.
So this is your first, Jonathan Galeano, everyone. I guess I should start probably introducing people with who they are. I think you're actually the first person I'm trying this with, where like I'm just doing like if no one shows up for a mic and we got one person, I'll just interview them on a podcast. Because I am hoping that this place becomes a little bit more of like a resource for comics, and I'd like to hopefully showcase more voices that aren't being heard. But this is your first podcast?
Yeah, first podcast. This is I'm dipping my my toe into the internet.
How long have you been doing comedy for?
2.5 years.
And you never thought of making a podcast yourself? Because it seems like that's what everyone has to do now. Everyone's got to make a podcast.
That's sort of what repels me from the idea of it. I'm like, there's 900 podcasts on my in my circle, of other comics in LA. So I'm just
do you actually listen to any podcasts that are made by any of your peers?
Almost. Definitely not a peer. Actually, no. The closest is, by the way, I'm going to shout this out. It's my fucking new favorite podcast is Ed Greer's Nerd Goat. Okay. It's fucking awesome. Nerd greatest of all time.
Why is it called Nerd Goat? Oh, Nerd greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Shit, that's kind of already, that's kind of piercing to something I was trying to work on.
I'll lay it out for you, but I mean, you pretty much get it. It's you pick whoever your favorite fictional character is, your favorite character from all of fiction. And then they basically tell you why they like it, why they relate with it. It could be a comic book character. It could be fucking. They've done like 4 Star Trek characters, obviously, because it's it's a nerd community.
So basically, it's one of those like rating podcasts where you talk about your favorite thing and you break down why it's so great.
Essentially, yeah, and then at the end, but
it's nerd stuff, so it really works with you. You're like, shit,
it peaks, the climax, and this is like I think the pinnacle of nerdom.
Yeah,
is at the end that like if you picked like let's say fucking Super Mario.
Yeah,
the hosts, it's Ed Greer and Ron Swallow. They come up with 2 other fictional characters. To fight that fictional character, and they have like a battle royale, and it's just nerds saying what their fictional characters are. It's so fucking entertaining.
I'm not like this is a personal opinion. I was already so sick of those whole YouTube videos that were like kind of, I felt like they were kind of like a derivative of like famous rap battles where like they show you like, what happened if Darth Vader fought Batman, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't need to see. It's fun stuff to talk about for me. Like it'd be like, oh well, like maybe he would win this way and maybe he would win that way, but to actually or even to play a video game where you play as Batman and someone plays as Darth Vader, that's fun. But to watch a short film made by someone who just made decisions about cool ways they could attack each other for like a quick 5-minute and it's never one wins over. It's always they both end up surviving typically.
Well, no, in this one, they have to. The person who's defending their character they have to set up a scenario where they win. But for me, it's not so much like I honestly.
I guess the talking about it's cool. If they're talking about it's fun.
I feel like I'm watching nerds like almost like National Geographic. Like I'm watching them in the wild.
Like you're not one of them.
Well, yeah, but this is meta for me. Like watching them geek out about how it would go down and stuff. That to me, they start talking faster and they get into it. That to me is fucking entertaining. It's so entertaining.
Well, I think the reason why most people like podcasts, at least that it's a growing format, is that like you get to enjoy conversations you want to be a part of.
Right.
Like everyone likes it because it feels like you're hanging out with people who are interesting and fascinating. Yeah. It's like there's like 2 forms. There's like the conversational where you're it's like a hangout cast where it's like these are people that I find entertaining. I would love for them to be my friends. And it's almost like a parallel relationship where you're like, okay, like I feel like I'm part of the group. And then there's the ones that are like, let's talk about a murder.
Right.
Like it's like history or documentary style where it's just like we went to a small town and we're talking about how these people used to come from like Rome and like how they all got together and started killing people or something like that.
Right.
And I don't like those. I don't particularly. I mean, I try to listen. I don't like the murder ones. I try to listen to the history ones, the psychology ones, but they're never that compelling.
Well, for me, I have a weird like spectrum of podcasts that are entertaining to me. Yeah. Like the Nerd Goat one, they keep them at an hour. And it's just, for me, it's just purely entertaining because they're comics, so they're funny about their nerdiness. But yeah, it's weird. I almost have to do like a palate cleanser sometimes. I listen to like really fucked up dark comedy type ones, and then I'll have like the Radio Lab type of more
Radio
informative.
Lab, I guess the Radio Lab I liked a lot actually.
Balance. Radio Lab is.
But NPR has been the masters at like creating a compelling narrative to an article for like decades. They were doing it before even podcasts. They're just doing it on radio. They know how to produce like really compelling fucking stories.
Yeah, and they always have like such a great angle that it's not just like, here's this information.
Right. Yeah.
They'll start off with a weird song.
That's the truth too.
And
They
then
have
they'll like, get into it.
Great production, but also two very charismatic and hosts that have great chemistry. Like there's just a very. I mean, that's why I listened to talk radio when I was a kid. As I loved listening to the Jersey guys, which nobody apparently knows. Even though apparently at the time, what they'd always tout is how they were the #1 radio show in the country. So I'm guessing maybe that was a joke. Because I've never talked to anyone who knows what I'm talking about. But they were on every fucking afternoon on a Jersey radio station I listened to when I was in the suburbs of Philly. And I loved them because they were just these two guys that like were very different, but they had a great chemistry about them that made it really fun to listen in on. And it was, I guess for me, it was the first thing that kind of was almost like my first podcast in the sense that I was always listening to them every day when I was in the car. I would just drive around aimlessly just to listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's weird. Like the whole, I feel like everything that I listen to now is either like a podcast or
I feel like that's
podcast.
The future of entertainment.
Yeah.
I know everyone's into YouTube and watching videos and stuff like that, but I find that like I actually finally subscribed to YouTube Premium just so I could have YouTube videos playing in my car when I'm not looking at my phone.
Yeah.
Like I really was like, there's so many things I don't really need to see the visual. I just need to hear the audio, and they don't have a podcast format of this like particular person's series. So now I just pay like an extra $15 because that way the app will play in the background and I can finally listen to shit. And I feel like I think the whole like, I know we talk about like in America we have like a culture of like being overworked. I don't think that's going to stop. I think we're going to keep on overworking. I think the people who don't believe in overworking are going to end up becoming peasants and working for the people who work their asses off, and they'll become slaves. And those people will want to listen to something while they're doing slave work, and they will be podcasts.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to look at your phone. Like I think, I do think that's going to happen too, where it's just like, that we got to crack down at some point over like how many people have YouTube playing on their computer at work.
Right.
Like that's got to stop.
Well, for me, like I work for a biomedical transportation company.
Oh, great! You're about to get fired now, aren't you? You're going to say something that's going to get you fired.
Oh,
and I'm always watching YouTube videos.
If they find this video and I say something worth being fired for, they earned it.
They have so little interest in me; they don't even know my name properly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So basically, I work for a biomedical transportation company. We transport a bunch of weird stuff all over the U.S.
Yes.
I have a funny bit about it actually. But yeah, it's And when we drive across the country, it's like without podcasts, I don't know what the fuck I would do. Like it feels all the time. And when I'm not doing that job, I have a bunch of weird little side jobs. Like I trim weed sometimes. And you're literally
how did you get that job? How do you end up trimming weeds?
I live in LA. I know like
Are you part Mexican?
I'm Nicaraguan. I'm half Nicaraguan, half black.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. I was gonna try to go with that for a while, but I'm like,
no, the second part of it gave it away.
Yeah. No, I feel like I could lie about that. I want to do a set where I talk about being Nicaraguan and half black. I'm not half black. I'm half Nicaraguan, half Mexican.
It's funny because Nicaraguan, it kind of sounds like another word for black people.
My girlfriend, the girl I dated a girl for 7 years.
Seems dangerous.
Almost 7 years.
Okay.
And she was half black and half Nicaraguan, and she called herself a Nicaraguan.
Gotta stop saying it. Dude, wait.
I earned the right to say black. Are you saying I should be saying African American?
The Nicaraguan just sounds too much like the N-word.
Hey man, that's what I am.
Like,
you know what they call us? You know what the polite and also the slur, which is very much like the N-word. They call us nicas.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like if it's like friendly, it's like hey este pinche nica. Like it's like a.
Is that the slur though? Nicas.
It's also the slur. You could also be like
so.
It's nica. Like it goes both ways. It's very much like the N-word. It's funny.
It's so weird though because like it's almost exactly. It just sounds like you're hiding the N-word. Like, it sounds like it. It's pretty much it's the exact same word.
Oh well, no, it's Nica.
It's Nica. But the way you say it.
Oh yeah, no, phonetically.
Phonetically, it just sounds pretty much like just another. It's just basically an accent you're adding to it.
Yeah. I tried to slip it in on stage.
Yeah, how does that work for you?
It did not
yeah,
work.
No shit. Yeah,
they were like just don't. It's too because I was just joking about how it's similar, and I talked about like it even sounds. And then I made sure there were black people in the room because I was like,
that's the best.
I want to get a good gauge.
I like to make sure there's black people in the room when I'm about to say something exceptionally racist. That's a slur too.
No, 100%. Yeah. Also too, I have I had a bit like the biomedical transportation thing. I had a bit where I went on the road for 2 weeks with two like middle-aged black men from Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
And I had a bit about how literally, like, I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Right.
But they were having Bluetooth conversations for the entire trip. Yes. I learned more about like whoever the fuck they were talking to than I did about the elves and the hobbits and stuff. And that whatever. It's just a joke about black dudes being on Bluetooth. Basically, I don't even say black. I just say men from Atlanta, Georgia, and people they figure it out. But no one's laughed. No one has laughed harder.
Oh,
at that.
I know what type of people are in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, yeah,
I saw
the Bluetooth
TV
in the
show.
Atlanta, Georgia, and it just the whole thing. I mean, they figure it the fuck out. But
that's the funniest part about that bit is you just basically like they're from Georgia and they're always on their Bluetooth. You know what I'm talking about, right, people? You know what kind of people I'm talking about.
Yeah. Those people. You know? No, but no one's laughed harder at that than black dudes. Black dudes fucking. If there's black dudes or women in the room, they laugh their asses off. If there's 0 black people in the room, though, people don't know if they can laugh at something like that.
All of my racist material does better with black people.
Yeah, because they don't. It's usually some white person or someone else that's defending them.
If it's
basically,
it's a good joke. It's based in truth, and they appreciate like anything that's truthful. I think they're better at discerning what is hate and what is like honesty. Especially
also bad
in comedy.
Jokes too. They're really good at finding
no one's funnier than black people.
100%.
As a Jew, I say that with 100% jealousy because we're a very funny culture, but we just, I guess, I don't know. Maybe maybe it's because it's so far long ago that we were slaves that we just lost a little bit of that edge. I don't know what it is.
Well, minorities in general too, because like I speak Spanish, and when I used to do like landscaping and all that, the funniest people you could work with. Like I can't even articulate the type of jokes they're making.
Oppression and struggle makes you funny. Like I think the best comedy for me is comedy that is tackling like pain and suffering and like struggle and turning into a more lighthearted perspective.
Yeah, I would say 99% of the time.
That being said, I don't think you have to be marginalized to be funny. This thing you need to understand, like you just gotta be able to take your trauma and your pain and be able to turn it around in a way that's entertaining.
Yeah, and you alchemize it basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not easy, but you can do it. What do you do? What is that?
That was I have like I've told you I'm hungover, guys.
You burped.
I was gonna burp, but then it felt like juicy, and I was like, I don't want to taste that. I've been sober for 2 weeks, you guys. Shout out to myself, my own sobriety. But yesterday I drank a bunch of like Trader Joe's canned wine.
What made you decide to go sober?
I actually had a really bad experience recently. I'm trying to decide if I'm I've already kind of decided I'm gonna be a sober person, I guess. with alcohol at least. Yeah. I went to New York in September. Yeah. This last September, and I got so blasted.
That is a heavy drinking city.
Yeah.
If you drink, I can't imagine if you're an alcoholic how you get through that city without drinking. No, seriously, because like every night. It's just like anyone I hung out with. It's like, well, let's go to a bar, and we'd hang out there for like. They could hang out there for They could hang out there till like 4:00 in the morning, just drinking and jibber jabbering about the most nonsensical shit.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. It's a great city to drink. You can just walk out.
It's great for getting laid. I mean, like if you want to fuck, like it's so much easier in Los Angeles because everyone's just trying to have a good time. But if you're like me, where like you'd rather go like watch like anime or read like the latest like Gershom novel or whatever the fuck, like it's actually kind of boring and sad because I don't want to like I don't drink a lot and I also hate spending money. So for me, I'm just like, what are we doing here? Yeah, no, I don't know what we're doing. Yeah. It's so exhausting. I mean, I like going out for like an hour or two. Yeah. And it's fun, I guess, if it's a fun group of people. But just to do that every night, like, unless I'm doing it because I'm on the prowl, there's just no point to it for me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, when I first landed in New York, I walked... For me, what I like is I like being in a new place, and you walk past a cool-looking bar. And for me, a cool bar is, like, dark and sort of... I like divey bars. Okay. Like, the line is, I don't want to get stabbed, but, like, someone might be weird.
Okay, you want no, I know what you mean. No,
that's
I know,
the range. It
you
might
want,
be
you want to have uncomfortable conversations, but you don't want to feel like you're
not necessarily.
Really?
I'm open for an uncomfortable
so you
conversation.
You just want weird looking people in the bar, but you don't want to feel like you're in danger.
I mean, like things are just a little off sometimes. Like it's a
not
weird
to the
vibe.
point that like it feels like there's drug deals happening and like.
Well, no, that's fine.
You ever been to? I'm sure you have. You've done Gigi's up in Ventura, right?
Gigi's?
Yeah, Gigi's.
No, is that a bar?
Yeah, it's a bar. It's Antonio runs it. I think I can't remember. I'm starting to get people mixed up. Actually, I don't think Antonio. Someone else runs it. But and I'm blanking on the name.
Dementia.
But just because there's just so many fucking like people outside of LA that like book shows. But anyway, it's it's in this bar, and every time I go to the bar, it feels like there's just so much, and not dangerous, but like shady shit is always happening. It always feels like there's like prostitution probably happening. It's in one corner, someone's there for like a drug deal. Like, it just feels very, very shady.
And
I love it. I'm almost
okay with that as long as there's no violence. I hate.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I love it because it almost feels like movie level kind of shady. Where just like it's something it's like a bar out of like Adventures with Babysitting. Like, there's no way any of us are gonna really get hurt.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of like older middle-aged people trying to like get by in life in somewhat nefarious ways.
Yeah, those another reason I like dive bars too is that when I was traveling for work a lot, I would carry around like a PA system. I had the one that I asked Joe for advice. Joe Menente, shout out to the Fourth Wall.
I think you picked your shirt up as if you were wearing the Fourth Wall shirt.
Yeah, I'm like, you. I do have one though.
I have one too. Oh, I had one. My mom took it from me.
That's like our fucking open micer uniform, like fucking open mic issued, like government issued.
Well, yeah, pretty
Fourth
much.
Wall T-shirt. But yeah, no, I would carry around a PA system, and I would go to dive bars, and I would slap like a 20 on the bar, and I'd be like, hey, I was like, if I can entertain you guys for an hour.
Oh, you were trying to do the fucking Jay Leno thing?
100%, yeah.
Oh, shit. How'd that work out?
Well, I didn't even know about the Jay Leno thing until like I started telling people that I was doing that because I didn't do the money at first. At first, I just walked in and I was like, can
I just annoy everybody in this
for an
room
hour?
For an hour?
At
and
least.
If it's, like, can I just be a complete nuisance in the corner?
Well, it's the worst one too. Is the very first night that I did this, I was in Kentucky.
Yeah.
During the what's the race with the 500 race cars and the
NASCAR?
500 laps? Yeah,
NASCAR.
it's a NASCAR race.
Indy 500.
Indy 500. There you go. Yeah, I'm very familiar. Obviously.
Okay, so the Indy 500 was happening.
I was there for the Indy 500, and I went to like the local. It's like the bar. I found out later, and I did my thing, my PA thing, and it was like you said, it was all like middle aged to like older. Sort of just like that's their cheers bar where they just come to hang out.
They go there every night because they see their friends, and they drink and get drunk and possibly get into some like small trouble, but nothing that big.
Well, I got threatened with violence there. Like one of the guys was like, "I'm gonna smack you, kid." Like it was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Someone called me. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. There was what did he say? Because I mentioned that I was Mexican at some point, just for whatever reason. I was trying to, whatever. I'm the type of person where I'm like, oh, I'm in this bar. I'm kind of getting weird vibes from these white dudes. Let me drop that I'm a minority just to like make things worse. Like I have that sort of like, I don't know. I mentioned it, and this dude wearing like a NASCAR jacket with like fucking, I don't know, fucking tied on it or whatever, all the patches. He calls me a cracker. Like after I mentioned I was Mexican.
That's so weird.
It was genius though, because basically what he was saying is like, I can't call you a spick because that's what your thing is. So I'm gonna call you my racial thing. That's
a new way for white people to offend races. I'll just call you things you call us.
Yeah.
To let you know I don't like you.
Yeah, and really what I'm telling you, I'm calling you your thing, but I'm saying substitute it with my
dog whistle right there. That's what that is.
It was it was
racist dog whistle.
I had at that one I didn't pick up on what he did. I was like that. Not until after, because I was when you're bombing your ass. I was like in there, just everyone hated me. I had stopped doing material. They had like
how long would you go for?
I did an hour of just hatred. They had like a mounted deer on the thing.
You're mentally ill.
No, 100%.
How long had you been doing comedy at this point?
A year, 9 months.
Jesus, I mean, okay,
almost 2 years. Actually, no, it was almost 2 years.
More props to you though, then, because a year into it, when I went to Arizona, we bought a PA system and a mic to maybe do it anywhere we could, and I didn't have the guts to do it. I was like, there's no. I just, as much as I love doing this, I just do not have it in me to just like go to a public place and just spring it on people. In fact, I did Maxie's show and I still regret that to this day, because like I just was like, it was a challenge, but it was not something that I feel like was aligned with my principles, because I just do not like, because I was like, I was anyone else on this subway, I'd want to kill me.
What is just to fill me in? What's Maxie's show?
I don't know if she's still doing it, but it was Train Tracks, where she would take a comic on the metro and they would do comedy
in the metro here in LA.
Yes, yeah.
Ooh.
And it was I mean, I'm not right for that kind of space. I'm very charming, but I'm also incredibly off-putting, and I'll say whatever I feel like in the moment. Yeah. Which is already kind of disturbing.
You getting stabbed.
Yeah, well, I got people in my face, and I definitely upset a family. And I definitely had one hell of a bomb on the last ride. But it was just like, looking back, I was like, what were you thinking was going to happen? Like, but it was just, I'm so attracted to challenges that I'm like, well, I'll learn something from this. And what I learned was like, yeah, don't do this. Like, don't just go to public. Or if you're going to do it, recognize that it's a way, way, way different strategy than anything you would do when people have come to see a show. And it's almost like, I mean, it really is. It's a whole different type of discipline. Because you're not so much a stand-up comic as you are a street performer, and that's just a different vibe and a different attitude and a way of going about people.
Yeah. It's almost like sales, I would say. It feels almost, because when you're performing comedy, you're doing your jokes and you're up there and you're like, say I go do a spot at like the Ice House or Flappers or whatever, like that is very much, I'm going in to do comedy, right? And there's going to be like a feedback, there's going to be a relationship with the audience. When you go into a place, I did it in cafes. I tried doing it at a video store, I found a video store somewhere in like, it was like Texas or something, and I was like, I'm gonna do comedy here. But it's very much like I think it's even closer to sales than it is
just regular stand-up,
just regular comedy, like an actual show, because you're selling yourself.
Well,
basically,
it's more like door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
Where
you're selling yourself, and you're I'm gonna
which
dominate
can
this
be effective.
room.
Like I've been with people who are very effective at it, but I've also seen how much fucking like. Dude, I'll never forget. That was back when I was like right out of high school, and I'm like looking for like easy work that'll make me money but doesn't require a college degree. I got pulled into. I got vetted by so many like pyramid schemes, and I'll never forget. One was like selling Verizon like internet, and just going on. I remember I was on this like I went on a ride along with one of the guys, like kind of show me how easy it is and like also the process to get me involved. And I already did like the Cutco thing, so I already kind of knew like the best of the best. And this was
everyone did fucking Cutco. My brothers did Cutco.
But Cutco is really simple. Like it's very low maintenance. Not a lot. Like you're mostly just calling your friends and your friends' friends, and your parents' friends, and trying to convince them to buy a knife set off of you. Whereas this was like we would go to certain sectors that they had laid out for us. We'd have to dress in a tie and like a collared shirt and go door to door to people who were apparently for some reason on some sort of list, and basically just interrupt their day.
Yeah.
And be like, no, don't worry. We're not trying to like fuck up your day or anything like that. We're not with anybody officially. We're just trying to help. We just know that you're apparently paying too much for internet, and we'd love to offer you some like really good internet. Yeah. And it was just like it was so funny because the way the guy would explain to me is like, this is such an easy job, dude, and I'm making so much money. It's fucking insulting. We could have said it's fucking insulting, dude. It's insulting how much money I make. I'm making so much money. It's insulting.
It almost seems
probably
like a coked out dude thing to like.
It had a very it did have a very boiler room feel to it. Yeah. Like it felt very much like a bunch of guys who had like watched like Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah. And they were like, that's my dude. This piece of shit's my dude.
Before Wolf of Wall Street, but yeah, basically like those kind of guys who'd watched like one show where like a bunch of business guys would just make wheeling and dealing, and are on the rise to be owning Maseratis at some point. And it was just, to me, I was just like, this is such a fucking joke, and this is so unbearable. Like, I would never want to do this, because we really just knock people's doors, and you could just sense, like, there's no way, like, you probably would get 2 sales a day at best if you were really hustling it. But that's the thing. It's like, that's what it requires, is that it's so much. I guess that's maybe why I don't like it, is it really is more so than comedy, like in a stand-up club. It's so much more rejection at such a higher volume on such a constant level that it's like, I'm sure once you get that callous, it probably makes just doing stand-up that much easier for you because you're so used to it. That's probably why Dave Chappelle, who I believe was doing like a lot of like street gigs for the beginning of his career, can just sit down for 4 hours and bore the shit out of people because he's not worried. He's like, I know how to handle any kind of situation. I'm working on my craft. But for me to go outside and to a park or to go to the promenade and just talk on a microphone for like 2 hours trying to attract people and dealing with, especially with the kind of way that I work, which is all about like, let's talk about some uncomfortable truths you're trying to avoid. Like that just doesn't work in a public atmosphere, especially in the metro when people are just trying to go home from their long fucking day.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, is in that setting, material usually fucking tanks.
Unless it's really light material. It's like street jokes. Like it's jokes that just like this could be read out of a book and it would be fun.
Which I have zero of. I don't know how to make a joke shorter than 3 minutes long.
Well, that's always
rough. Yeah. Well,
so when you do potluck, you're just like, I got one joke and let's hope this one works.
Yeah. No, I have one 3-minute long joke about fucking rats doing cocaine or something. I'll talk about an experiment. Yeah, I'll talk about that experiment. It's about 3 minutes. It's tight and it sort of builds.
Yeah.
But I wish I'm gonna force myself to. I'm gonna force myself to start writing like one-liners and just short form jokes just for the sake of like, I want to try to I don't know. I feel like that muscle is just not, I don't know. It's just
you have to work. Everything is a muscle. You got to work out. You got to like figure out how to. And that's what I'm saying. Doing it in public and like during the daylight, where in a space where people are just expecting it to just go about their day.
Yeah,
it's such a tremendous amount of work. And maybe someday I'll be like, oh, I'm kind of up for the challenge. But just like with the way that I interact with people, I just don't see. There's so many more bad situations that could happen that I'm aware of. Like I'm acknowledging it. Like that's just like it's like I'd have to change my entire approach.
Yeah.
And
well, if you're gonna do it too, I highly recommend when you show up. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I just bought that new cable too. That's crazy.
Damn.
Oh, you know what it is? That's the fucking dead cable. That's why I gave you the bad cable.
Okay.
Keep talking, and I'll set it up so you can switch cables.
That's pretty good. I was being all fidgety. What was I gonna say? You guys
kind of sound like a rat there for a second.
Yeah, coked out rat. Back to people wanting to go to a bar and just hang out. I've had a few of those interactions where I'm just show up and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do comedy now. Oh yeah, this is what I was saying.
You told me you would go to bars and they give them $20 because basically you had to pay them for all the fucking I always for all the.
When I put $20 on the table, I always got it back. I always entertained them enough. I would actually win them over.
Did you see that like a drastic change then in like your performance once you threw money on the line?
I think so, because at that point now I don't give a fuck about the $20. Like I was making really good money traveling.
Yeah.
But now it's more of it's a challenge. It's a game, and now I'm like, fuck you, I'm gonna make you laugh, and I would every time.
And they thought you were worth getting the $20 back.
Yeah, every time I did cafes and stuff, I'd get my $20 back, and then they would like make me free drinks and stuff. Sometimes I would just take the $20 though and throw it in the tip jar if it was like a cafe.
Oh wow, what I'm like, baller move! Because I'm like, this motherfucker, Jonathan Galeano, coming in.
I just came
giving them a great time.
Rape your ears.
Hey, just so you know, I don't even need this money. I want to make. I'm gonna double your fucking day.
Yeah,
right
I came
now.
here to do an hour of comedy. If you're in a city where they don't have an open mic, dude,
that's
that
a baller.
Hour feels
that's
good.
a baller move, dude. To bet them $20, you make them laugh, get the $20 back, and then basically say, you know what though, thanks for having me.
I should just burn it. That would be a fucking. That would undo all the great. If you had a
weird
great
thing
set,
to do, actually,
that would be so aggressive.
Just to throw a lit match at the tip jar. And be like, yeah, thank you.
No, just burn down the whole building with the
that would be literally insane. That would be mentally ill.
Yeah, and then people were like, "Hey, man, I heard that you posted on Facebook that you fucking had a killer set at a cafe," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I
literally murdered everybody.
I brought the building down."
Yeah, exactly.
That's awful. No, yeah, it's fun. I like doing it. I did it in conjunction with open mic sometimes too. If they had a mic in the city, I did it in San Francisco actually.
So threw $20. Like, put me at the top of the list. I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
And let me do an hour while all these micers look at me like I'm a fucking asshole.
Oh man, dude, I
don't like being at this stage where like I'm an open micer in LA and then traveling to open mics out of town and telling them I'm from LA because it creates a weird vibe for me. I feel like
it can. It depends. Yeah. I've done comedy almost in every single state because of my job, and in some places it's also too. You don't realize how. I'm not saying we're fucking hilarious, but you go to a place where people have been doing it for 4 or 5 years, but they have one mic a night in Eugene, Oregon.
No, I get that. You definitely are funnier. You are funnier than the majority of the people around here. You're working harder. You have more opportunities to work out. You have way more perspectives to have to climb up against and like speak louder than. But
those places don't care that you're from LA. That's my point. Those small places usually don't mind. It's Detroit, other big cities that are sort of like New York. They're like
big. Well, New York obviously doesn't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck.
But like other cities, the big cities I would go through, would be
they don't have to.
They'd be like, "Oh, Mr. LA coming here. You think because you're from LA, you're better than us? I never even heard of you." I'm like, "Yeah, I never heard about you either." That's my point, dude. Let's just do some comedy. Let's just get this done.
Yeah, I've never gotten that from a comedic standpoint, but I've definitely gotten that from like that Kentucky bar that I fucking assaulted during the Indy 500. It was more
of a
like
assault them. You just insulted them.
Yeah. No, it was. But yeah, I got that vibe from them. Like I've gotten that vibe from just people in weird little
cities. Plug that into that one.
Okay.
And it should be fine. And then give me that cable so I can throw it the fuck out. Yeah, what was I gonna say? No, I'm just thinking about the 2 particular cities that I would go to. Well, also like when I was going through Sioux Falls, like it was a weird feeling, and I guess I should get used to this because that'll happen. You're there.
Okay.
Is that like I'd go to Sioux Falls and they were like giving me a bunch of time because I was like an LA comic, and I was like, okay, this is a little bit weird to me, like to be treated like.
Where's Sioux Falls?
Sioux Falls is in South Dakota, and it's actually it was a really fucking dope city because the food was fucking amazing. It was such good food, dude. Every night that I finished up a set, I would go to Planet Fitness and I'd work out for an hour, and then I'd go to like a restaurant to like get like a nightcap dinner. Great burger place. I went to this delicatessen that really turned out to be a French bistro that they served fish tacos at, and I was just that to me was very indicative of how like they're clearly cut off from the rest of the country because they don't know what any of these things are. But there was also like these great coffee shops. It's fucking amazing food there.
Yeah, we got this Italian restaurant. We serve corn dogs, and mac and cheese.
Yeah, and tuna sushi. Like it just was so bizarre.
That's weird. I like the attempt though. You know what I mean? Like a place like
that
where they're like,
we
got this fancy
as a guy who was really
tacos.
in the mood for like bagel and lox, like I was excited to go to delicatessen. Then I get there, I'm like, this is not a delicatessen. Then I look at the menu and I'm like, the best thing on here is salmon tacos, which I'm like, that's not something I would associate with this kind of this kind of style of aesthetic. But I went to a coffee shop there that had like insane baked goods. I went to a burger shop that was just like. The waitress was like really excited that was my first time because she's like, these are great burgers. And then sure enough, I ordered a burger and I was like, wow, that's like the first time it lived up to the hype of a waitress.
Did you go there to do comedy?
Yeah. Well, I went. Well, I was on my way to South Dakota. I was on my way to Mount Rushmore, and because I decided to make that stop, I decided to stop in Sioux Falls where I knew a comic that I met earlier that year to see if I could maybe get some spots. And I got like they were open mics, but because I was an LA comic, they gave me more time and. Because it's such a small comedy community, there were open mics that people would actually come to watch some of the comedy. So the second mic I did had like a room full of like 20 to 25 people at least. Might have been 30. I'm not quite sure. But it was definitely like a full room. And it was it was awesome. It was really cool to finally feel what it feels like to be on the road doing gigs where it's just like these people have no idea who I am. I don't know who they are. And now we got to figure out like what's our common type of humor.
Yeah, and America is mostly not California.
That was also, I know how I said earlier too that like black people love racist jokes more than white people, but this was definitely a town where like the one black guy didn't like any of my racist jokes, and it made me uncomfortable how much everyone else did.
I like that you're calling them racist jokes because sometimes they just are.
They're racist, but
I think they're funny.
I mean, they're race jokes really at the end of the day. They're not racist. They're just and in fact, that's probably what we have to start doing is stop calling them racist and just call them race jokes. But like,
no, I just enjoy it. You're like, yeah, my racist stuff. I'm like, yeah, I got my racist.
Yeah,
jokes.
well, just like
but because we know
they're
not
jokes.
Yeah,
they're jokes.
That's a joke in itself.
It's not my racist fucking like memoir. It's not my racist what do you call it ideology that I share. I'm not when I share my racist philosophy, it's like these are just jokes I tell that have a racial connotation to them because what's funny about them is how they touch upon a certain like prejudice that I find to be humorous.
And I only do it if it's organic. Like with all the comedy that I do, I don't go, I got to write a political joke. I got to write a racial joke.
Well, I'm very racist, so it's all very organic.
So it's very.
It's like I'm just constantly thinking about racist shit.
Yeah. So it's just
it's all coming. It's all my truth. It's all like this is how I feel.
This is my truth.
Yeah.
All my stuff. It's like it's all either personal experience, just something that's too good not to talk about. Like I did a show in New York. That was basically it was a black show. I showed up. It was in Brooklyn. I could say urban, but it sounds like such a bitch move to say urban. It was a fucking
I hate
show.
the whole new urban definition because to me it sounds particularly slighting towards black people because what you do mean is an all black room.
Yeah, and it's exactly.
I mean, maybe
just
some Mexicans, right? But like
you don't like two Puerto Ricans.
But what you don't mean is like a bunch of like white people, black people, trans and lesbians, and like all from like Harlem. Like you don't mean that. Like you mean a room basically of like a very like like black people.
Yeah, no, it was very
with that kind of connotation. Just call it what it is. Why do you have to hide them? Why do you have to hide who they are?
Yeah, and
I don't like
that's
words
what
like
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
It's deceptive. It's just you're not saying
it's covert. You're trying to. You're saying once again. You're saying it's like saying the N-word. You're saying something without saying it.
It's circuitous.
Yeah, and to me that's cowardly.
$10 word I've been wanting to use for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, circuitous. It's like beating around the bush.
I know it's. Oh God, fucking dude, go fuck yourself. Okay, you know who you're talking to. I know what circuitous means. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I know.
I know you just learned that word like 3 days ago when you were at the Coral Diner walking out and saw on the calendar, but I know that word.
That's why you saw me get real uncomfortable before I dropped it. Did you notice I paused for like 2 seconds? I
was checking the mic list to make sure that how much time we had left, but like,
I was like, don't fuck this up, John.
It's a kiddish.
Fuck.
See, that's why I hate using big words, because people give me so much shit for like trying to impress them. Like, that's just my fucking vocabulary, dude.
Well, I slip them in to get to the point where it's natural, you know?
Because that's what you have to do. That you have to start. It's always
your...
embarrassing when you have to use a word a few times just to make sure it's part of your vocabulary. But you have to do that. You have to like work. Otherwise, you'll just forget it, and you'll be like, "What's that circle word that I know?"
There's times, I don't know. There's times where.
Do you know what circumspect means?
Circumspect?
Yeah.
That's when they circumcise you and then they inspect
but that's what it should be called, actually. They should call it circumspect when you're inspecting foreskin.
Yeah, that's a job. Some guy circumspects after the moil.
Yeah.
No, it's a separate job.
Yeah. Well, it's the apprentice job. The intern has to go check the foreskin.
Yeah.
You got to make jobs for people.
You got to spread the wealth. Yeah. Well, that's
not in Judaism. We all have a bunch of money. We're all lawyers and doctors.
Yeah.
and we run the media.
No, what does it mean, circumspect?
It means to be, I guess it could be seen as like, it's kind of like, what you just, God, I just forgot the word you just used.
Circuitous.
Circuitous. It's like going about something in a more like, roundabout way.
Okay. It's probably, it sounds like a synonym. It's a synonym for circuitous.
Well, it's just like, if you were to like go, like, if you're taking a trip to like San Diego and you go to like Arizona to Texas to San Diego, you're being circuitous, but that's not circumspect, because that's actually like, you're not trying to hide your intentions, you're just being ridiculously out of the way.
Right.
Yeah. I like how this just turned into a vocab lesson, because I wanted to impress you, because I knew what circuitous meant. But
we're just meandering.
That was a word where I was like, this whole fucking podcast is meandering.
Yeah. A lot of podcasts are meandering,
well, you got to start with meandering to find the truth, and then you get better at figuring out like how to like always go. I mean, probably talking about topical shit would be better, but I'm realizing this. I don't really read the news. I don't give a fuck about what's happening in the world typically. Yeah. I for the first time in my life, now I'm starting these live casts. I want to actually start reading Reddit basically and figure out like what are people talking about, because I never know.
I feel I definitely need to get more in the loop. Like I don't.
Only like for entertainment's sake, though. I don't care about being informed. Like, I only want to learn, so I have something to talk about on podcasts, which is so selfish and unhelpful.
Well, as somebody who does comedy, when you're talking on a stage, I want to at least know enough to be able to back up something. If I, for whatever reason,
maybe to understand how a lab work works when you're doing your fucking mouse joke, like you can at least play off of any kind of information that comes out. But
and
like
drug addiction,
if you don't talk, if you're not a political person, someone brings up like, what do you feel about like the Clintons? You'd be like, well, I don't really pay attention to that shit, so why bring it up in my fucking show? Like I don't talk about those things. Like you don't have to have an opinion about everything.
Yeah, and I'm sort of learning that too. Is that like when I first started doing comedy, I was like, oh fuck, I started reading books on anthropology and shit. Just I don't know, it was this weird thing where I was like, if I'm gonna
hey, honestly, it beats reading a book about comedy. Honestly, I'm happy with you not reading it. I'm happy with being like, how do I understand people, not like how do I get funny.
I was getting laughs. Pretty early on, I'm not, like I bombed my ass off more than anything, but I'm like, oh shit, this thing is working. I would have good sets, which was like, okay, cool, and like.
Well, you're an offbeat guy in general. Your personality is quirky and weird, so it's already kind of funny on its own.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I sort of I was having decent sets, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna read Judy Gold's Comedy Bible, and I started reading it. And it's just like, it's like set up punch. It's like it's literally breaking down comedy. And it was so unfun for me.
Yeah.
And it was making me get in my head about how to be funny on a stage. And I couldn't read it. I was like,
when I was 18, I was thinking about becoming a comic, because everyone said I should be. And I bought up 2 books on how to do stand-up comedy. And they both made it look very kind of like, the way they went about it was just so...
formulaic?
Yeah, formulaic and just like clerical. Like a lot of like writing notes and keeping organized, because the reality is there's not much to say as far as how to be funny. There's just a lot to say about how to run the funny business. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like, you should try getting like a logo, and make sure you keep your notes together, and make sure you go through your set and run through it, and like keep a very organized list of your jokes. And I'm just like, this doesn't sound like how to be funny. This sounds like how to like run a business, and I didn't want to do that at the time. So it just kind of made me just leave the whole entire idea on the side, because I was like, this doesn't make me feel funny. This makes me feel like I'm just gonna do a fucking office job.
Yeah, and it's 100% true. Like you can't really teach funny. People are either funny or they're not. And I'm not gonna say a name or anything like that. But
I'm thinking about 5 or 6 people right now on the top of my head.
It's true. You meet people that have been doing comedy for 20 years.
Yeah, no.
and you're like, man, you're so bad, and it's not even like it makes me sad because I'm like, fuck, this probably isn't your.
Matty Shimber, when he came on my podcast, he said that it was so obvious. I was surprised, I never thought about it, but I was talking about like comedians doing comedy and like open micers and how they're not, and like how they don't seem to progress. And he's always like, well, the question is like, are you funny to begin with? Like, and I was like, wow, we don't talk about that. We really don't talk about whether or not you should be doing this because like, are you funny? But he's so right in the sense that like, there's some funny people out there.
Yeah.
And you can learn how to be funny. You can learn at least how to make people laugh.
Yeah.
But if you want, if you might have to be a writer where you're just very good at, you learned the method of like writing a joke and refining it to the point that it's funny. Or you might be a funny person where you can figure out like, what is it about me that I find funny, and how do I find people who agree with that kind of humor or enjoy that humor? Not agree with it. I don't like that term.
Or you could be the triple threat. You look funny.
You are funny,
and you're good at writing funny shit.
Well, I'm 2 out of 3, so because I'm not good at writing anything.
Yeah, I'm goofy looking, and I'm not good at writing either. It's weird. I don't know.
It's just I've learned. I tried when I first started, but like this only works for me in the way that talking to people works for me, which is that like I have concepts in my head, I know how to share them, and I whittle them down through conversation to being able to get much better at presenting them. But writing it down and going through it like an essay and re-editing it, I could do that, but it would not be a performance. It would be an essay I would hand in. I couldn't, and I would never be able to recite it the way I wrote it. It's always going to be like, this is how it makes sense to me to say it right this second to these kind of people.
Yeah. No,
you urban folk.
You urban folk. You urban folkin. Yeah, when I get it's very rare that I sit down and write out, because when I first started, I would write out like paragraphs of what I was gonna say in my 5-minute set.
Yeah.
And it was so. What time are we at?
We got to wrap this up soon, but I'll finish that story.
But yeah, no, I would write like paragraphs of like what I was gonna say on stage. I would put like parentheses, pause, like everything, like every little detail, and it was so much that like it just rarely worked. And then the clever thing that you think is gonna hit on stage is so mapped out that people can just feel that.
Yeah, no, if it feels practiced and rehearsed and like they're not connected with you, it turns into a play, and that's not typically what works when it comes to doing jokes, especially when you're on your own performing stand-up. There's just something that's more, I mean, it can work, especially like if you're watching like a Conan set, but like if you're at a show, there's just something about, for me, that the human condition where you're just like, I can tell you're not looking, like you're not talking to me. Yeah. I'm watching you do your own little thing. And it's just so narcissistic and self-involved that you're just like, well, fine. And like, you go do your thing and I'll just tune out myself.
Yeah. It's not organic. Oh, and I just want to sneak in one last thing. Okay. If you have a 10-minute set at a comedy club that is a booked spot, and you're a comic and you're up there with your notebook, fuck you. That's it.
That's a great way to get people to remember you, and to definitely to divide the people who are going to want to keep listening to you and the people who never want to talk to you again. Where can people find you on Instagram?
Very rarely. I think I've posted 7 things.
How do people follow you then? How do you get fans to follow you?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram. I am at Bonbonathan, at BONBONATHAN, and I am on the Facebooks, just Jonathan Galeano. And yeah, if you follow me, I'm gonna start posting more shit. I have like 100 pictures and videos and stuff that I just haven't posted, that I'm gonna start posting. Also, too, I have a comedy show. I have a comedy show that I do bi-monthly. It's called Comedy Disco. It's an hour and a half of awesome comedy. I book comics that are awesome. I go out to places. I'll put you on it too. You're great.
Thanks, dude.
And yeah, hour and a half of good comedy. It's reasonable. I don't book people to bring other people. I just want to do good shows. And then after that, it's like fucking 3-4 hours of funky disco, house, dance music, and it's a fucking good time.
Dude, for a guy who's never done a podcast before, that was pretty prepared.
Yeah, no, that was all off the top. You know, those harassing people at bars.
You got to do more podcasts, dude. Well, anyway, John, thanks for being the first one to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was really fun.